All right, so it's time to get back into the swing of things. I've been gone for a long time, and I apologize for that. I've been very sick, on and off. In October and November, I had pneumonia, and then it took me a long time to recover from that, and then I ended up with a secondary infection that gave me bronchitis, and then I recovered from that, and then a couple weeks later, I ended up getting what I think was the flu, and I'm still recovering from that right now. So recording has been like very secondary, and there are other reasons that I've been taking some time off. So that I'll talk about that in another video, because some big changes are going to be coming. But like I said, that'll come in another video. I'll talk about that. But today I want to talk about something that has been like weighing really heavily on my mind for a long time. I've actually been thinking about this on and off for months, so I think getting it out into a video is a good idea. So I have heard a lot in my life, as have many of you most likely, about manifestation. And I've talked about it pretty confidently in a lot of my videos. And as a human being, I want to take a step back from some of the things that I have said previously, not necessarily because I think that they're untrue, but more so because I want to invest less absoluteness in the things that I'm saying, because I want to recognize that as human beings, we have a limited perspective and a limited understanding of the world around us, and that we don't know things for certain. Like, for example, we don't know what happens when we die. Anybody who tells you that they know what happens when they die is lying to you, because they don't. That's just something that as human beings, we cannot understand. We do not understand, will never understand until the day it happens, maybe. We don't know what happens when we die. And so that's one thing, as an example, that shows the limitations of the human psyche, right? We have limitations of what we're capable of understanding and what we're capable of knowing about. And another thing is manifestation, right? Which has become kind of like a meme too at this point. So I believe, because of evidence that has surfaced in my own life, I have a strong belief that manifestation is something that does work and does exist in some capacity. And I will give you those examples. I've given these examples before, but I want to give them again just for sake of ease and to reinforce my thought pattern. So when I take stock of my life as it currently stands, in my personal life, when I stop to think about it, everything that I have now, where I live, like the set of circumstances that I find myself in, everything about my life right now as it stands is exactly what 17, 18, 19-year-old Jamie asked for. When I was a teenager, I hated living in a rural small town where there was nothing to do and everybody knew everybody and your private business was all over the place, blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to live in a city. That was a big thing for me. I wanted to live in a city. Now I live outside of Washington, D.C. That happened not because I actively made the choice, but actually it happened because I met my girlfriend in the rural town that I lived in, which is the odds of that happening, because she's from this area, the odds of that happening are minuscule. Like, what are the odds that I live in a town that literally has a population of less than 1,000 people, and I meet this girl from Washington, D.C., and she's in my town for however long, and we start dating, and then we start living together, and then we have a child together, and her mother moves us to Washington, D.C. That was not my choice. That was not something that it's not like I sat and I saved up money and then picked out an apartment and no, this came to me outside of my will, outside of my own volition. Okay. I wanted to have my own music studio. And so in some ways I made that happen, but also one day I just like looked around me and I realized that I have like 8 different instruments and none of them I purchased. I was looking for a second guitar. And so my foster, like, because I wanted to make like heavier metal music. And so I had this Fender Starcaster that was given to me by my mom, and I had this acoustic guitar that was given to me by my dad. That's normal. But some years went by and I was like, man, I could really use a heavier guitar, like a guitar that, something that I could put thicker strings on, that's faster and good for making metal music. And then all of a sudden, my foster parents, whom I used to live with in the rural town that I'm from, give me back this old guitar that I thought was broken and ruined, and they give it to me and it's in perfect working order. All I had to do was make a few adjustments, and now I have the second guitar that is a metal style guitar with a slightly longer scale length, which means the length of basically where the strings are. And all of that is just to say that I gained that also outside of my own will. It just kind of fell into my lap. And some smaller things, I wanted a job that was less difficult, that I didn't hate going to every day, but still paid me well. And I was like, man, I'm never going to find a job like that, because just like the job market sucks and whatever. And when I moved down here, my father-in-law actually got me a job at a place called Trader Joe's. And that's exactly the environment, exactly the kind of work that I like, that I was like, because when it comes to jobs and working, like when I want to work, like as far as working for a company and having like a regular job goes, I didn't ever really want it to be my career. I wanted it to be something that I could go to and do to my full capacity, that was entertaining enough for me to do, but also wasn't burning me out or stressing me out, but was making me enough money so that I could support myself and my family while I pursued the things that I really wanted to do, things like making music and creating these videos for you guys. And that's exactly what I got. It fell into my lap. Another example is that I was looking for a bass guitar, and I didn't think that I was ever going to get one. Because I didn't really, like I said, I make okay money, but not really enough that I'm putting away a lot in savings. And I kind of have to be careful with what I spend, of course. And so I was just making music and whatever, and using electric basses, like programming them when I was making my music. And then all of a sudden I go over to my friend's house and we're hanging out, and he pulls out this bass and he's like, yeah, dude, play this and check it out. And I'm like, okay, cool. And he goes, hey, do you want to borrow this? And I was like, yeah, that would be great. So he gives me the bass, and it's been a while now, and I've brought it up to him and he hasn't asked for it back. So I'm thinking that I'm probably going to buy that off of him. But that also is another example of something that I kind of put out into the universe, and then it just returned to me, and it came and fell into my lap, and I didn't really. It's not like I sat down and I wrote it in a notebook and then I put it in a note and kept it in my pocket all day and I repeated a mantra to myself. It was like I asked for it one time. I said, man, it would really be cool to have a bass. I'll get one when it's time. I'll get one when I'm ready to have one, and it just falls into my lap. Another example is like when I was really heavy into playing basketball, I was going, and I had this old crappy pair of basketball shoes. And if you know anything about basketball shoes, they're really expensive. Like usually they're like over $100. So I could never really justify to myself buying a new pair. But this pair that I had since I was like 17 started to really wear out. And it got to the point where I just simply could not wear them anymore because it was bad for my hips and my knees and my ankles to continue wearing them. And so I was like, yeah, I'm done with these shoes. Like, I'm going to have to get a new pair. And it was the same thing where I said, I need a new pair of shoes. I'm going to get them when I'm ready to have them. Whether it's me having to buy them or whatever. The very next day, I come into work, and my boss, my manager, comes to me and he says, Jamie, what size shoe do you wear? And I say, well, I wear a 12 or a 13. And he's like, I have like 2 pairs of basketball shoes that I can't fit anymore, and I want you to have them. He just gave me 2 brand new pairs of basketball shoes. And I mean, even this channel, I watched this video by this other channel called Malika, My Guardian Angel, I think is the name. And I'll put a screenshot of the video that I'm talking about in somewhere here. So this video talks about this method of manifestation called the SPEC method. And the SPEC method means select it, project it, expect it, collect it. And when I saw that video, I was like, man, that makes a lot of sense. And I really need to like look into that. And so this was when I was still trying to like build a fan base on YouTube. And so at the time, my YouTube channel had like 40 subscribers. Like I literally, this was before my viral video. This was before any of that. So I go through this method of selecting what I want, which is to become I wanted to become a YouTuber. And my reasons for wanting to do that were that I wanted to be able to do something that was valuable to other people, that I enjoyed doing, and would allow me to have the freedom to be at home with my family and be there when they needed me, while still being able to support them and be basically just a productive member of society. I wanted to be able to support myself and my family while doing something that provides value and being free, or at least relatively free. And so one of the things of that like method, the P in the SPEC, SPEC, is project it. And so one of the specific examples that Malika, My Guardian Angel, that channel brought up, was when somebody asks you, like if you have a job that you want and somebody asks you what you do for a living, that you should say that you do that job for a living. And so I took that to heart. And keep in mind, at the time that I did this, my channel only had 40 something subscribers. So by no means was I a successful YouTuber at this time. And even now, I don't really consider myself to be fully, because I haven't capitalized on it the way I want, because I have all of these moral dilemmas about the way that I create content going on. But I was at the playground with my daughter, and I started having a conversation with another parent, and she asked me what I did. And of course I responded, well, I'm a YouTuber. I do YouTube. I make YouTube content, and that's how I make my money. That was a lie, truthfully. So I felt kind of weird doing it, but I was trusting this advice that I had gotten. And a week later, I uploaded my viral video, and that video got 1.1 million views. And that was like, wow, this is real. That to me, now again, I can't, like, I always go back and forth. Could this all be a coincidence? Sure. And by no means do I intend to instill beliefs or ideas in other people's heads that, like, I'm not trying to plant something in your head to say, well, you should believe in manifestation, blah, blah, blah. Like, it could all be a coincidence. It could. And I don't know. Like, at the end of the day, like, I'm a human being. I have a limited perception. I have a limited understanding. So is it real? I don't know. But if it is real, there's one huge quandary. There's one huge moral, painful quandary that weighs on my shoulders. When in our life does it become possible for us to do so? Is there an age limit? I don't think so. I don't think that there's a specific age that all of a sudden manifestation becomes unlocked for us. And what I realized is that everything in my life that I have, everything that has happened in my entire life has been what I asked for. Everything. The good and the bad, which is the terrifying part. So let me take you to the point of this video. I know it took me a long time to get here, and if you're still here, thank you. But this is the point. When I was younger, these are some things that I went through as a child. When I was younger, I had a brother who is now he's now deceased. He passed away in 2011 when I was 11 years old. He was 2 years younger than I am right now. He was 23. He served in the U.S. Army, I believe from like 2007-ish to 2011, around that time, 8, 9, 10, 11, around somewhere in that time period. So everybody in my family, in my immediate family, both of my brother and my sister and both of my parents were addicted to various hard drugs, like not just cannabis, but like a lot. They used methamphetamines, they used heroin, they used crack, they used cocaine. So this was obviously a very prominent issue. My brother, I don't know when he started or why he started, but I don't think that it happened until after he got out of the Army. But to make a long story short, one day when my brother had just gotten discharged from the Army finally after completing his contract, he came over and visited, and I didn't want to do my homework. And my brother, being a soldier, was trying to instill discipline in me, and I was 11 years old. So he comes into my room and he starts arguing with me about doing my homework, and my parents are trying to get me to do it, and I get really pissed off at him, and I say, and I will never forget this. He starts yelling at me, telling me to do my homework, and I told him to go away, that I hated him, and that I never wanted to see him again. That was the last thing that I ever said to my brother, because that same night, he overdosed on fentanyl. And so the question arises, did I make that happen? Did I manifest the death of my brother? Because I, with emotion and anger, put out into the universe that I hated my brother and never wanted to see him again. We have to consider things like this. If we say that, if this is true, things like that can't be ignored. So let me bring you to the next point. I used to argue with my parents a lot because we were a troubled family, and I was a troubled child. I hated going to school because like my sister had this like anti-establishment thing that she was always pushing into my head, and so did my mom kind of. But all of that is to say that I would argue with my parents a lot. I would tell them no, and I would like break things, and I had anger problems. I would become very angry and very violent because I was like in fight or flight mode. And I remember there were multiple times that I yelled at my parents that I wanted to be put in foster care. And then I got put into foster care. And so again, did I make that happen? Did I put that out into the universe and then cause that to happen by saying that this is what I want and meaning it at the time? And then both of my parents died. And I spit a lot of hate at them when I was younger. I spit a lot of vitriol and hate, and I never want to see you again kind of stuff. And I ignored them. My dad lived like an hour away from me, less than an hour drive away from me for a long time. And I would go like months and months and months without seeing him. This was after he got clean. And like, I kind of wanted to have a better relationship with him, but I never really did because I never went to see him. Same thing with my mom. She lived half an hour away from me. I never really went and saw her. I would see her for like 2 weeks at a time. Then I'd go months and months without seeing her. And then, it is my lack of attention what killed my parents? Is my vitriol and hate that I spit towards them what caused them to die? Because they both died at a young age. My dad was only 62. That's a very young age to die. Not considering his lifestyle, perhaps. I mean, he did smoke a lot of cigarettes, and he did use a lot of drugs throughout his lifetime. And my mom died at 58. Or something around that age. And she died of like a very extremely aggressive and horrific to watch form of dementia. So that's the question is, if what we speak and what we ask for from the world is what's given to us, then does that mean that those terrible things that happened to me are my fault? Do I have to take responsibility for those things? Did I make that happen? Did I kill my parents? Did I kill my family? I'd like to know what you guys think. I'd like to hear your thoughts. I just really needed to talk about that because it's been weighing heavily on my mind for a while. I have some other things that I'm going to talk about soon in upcoming videos. That some things are going to change. We're going to go in different directions. But I want to get back into the swing of things. I know that I kind of reopened with a heavy topic, but it's just, what's really been on my mind. So much love to you guys. Thank you for sharing the space with me, and I will see you in the next video.